It's Nobody Asked with Maria
Hey!
and Colin. I'm the other one. Today, we'll be discussing topics such as
We're going to talk about some propaganda from Russia. I can't believe you let me say it. You're supposed to interrupt me like you normally do.
No. That's not until after the intro. It's
What?
season 2.
We're just as confused as we were season 1.
We never figured out this intro. We're also going to be talking about financial sanctions and the new way that war works.
Ooh.
Yeah. And here is the song. Boom, 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 boom,
nobody asked.
boom, boom. Nobody asked.
That seems like enough.
Nobody asked.
Woo! All right, we're just as dumb as ever. Perfect.
Yep. Are you going to introduce the first topic?
All right, so I wanted to talk about...
Just kidding. Today's episode is sponsored by StreamYard. Do you want a seamless streaming experience for your live podcast with your mom? Do you want to have to put in so many different verification codes for your account? Do you like ducks? If you are of those 3 categories, I would recommend the product StreamYard. They're a streaming service. They've got a duck. They've got so many verification codes. StreamYard.
So that explains the experience that we've had today trying to set this up.
Trying to be slightly more professional.
Instagram. Huh?
Trying to be slightly more professional than before.
We try. I don't know if we're succeeding. But being unprofessional is pretty fun too.
Yeah. All
right. Should we really talk about it now? Is it time?
Yes, it's time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to talk about propaganda. I mean, first, what's propaganda? And then, kind of how it's being used in the world we're in right now, and particularly with Russia and Ukraine, because what's going on over there is terrible. And it's pretty much all I can think about right now. So propaganda, very simply, is information, particularly if it's bias or misinformation, although it doesn't necessarily have to be a lie, but it often is, that is used to promote a particular cause or point of view. With Russia, oh my gosh, I probably wrote like 3 pages of just what Russia is trying to put out there and say is going on and telling the Russian people. Keeping in mind, when it comes to Russia, their media is state-run. They don't have any say. The journalists don't have as much say about what they're reporting and what the truth is. The truth is controlled. Putin controlling the narrative, of course. So the reason that he's saying he is in Ukraine to the Russian people and what they are hearing is, of course, that there's no war, right? There's just an operation that's going on. There's just a little military operation. It's no big deal. And its purpose is, well, a couple of things. And that's where it gets fun, because it depends on what day on what Putin says it's about. So one day it's about denazification, right? Apparently, the Ukraine is planning a genocide against the Russian people. Seems unlikely, but but okay. I mean, I think if I heard that, I would be quite frightened of Ukraine. If I was a Russian, I'd be like, oh no. But also, Russia and Ukraine, like most people's family members, if you're Russian, you have plenty of family members in Ukraine, and the other way around. It's like, maybe just call your grandma up and see if that's the case.
Yep.
Let's see. Boop, boop, boop. So I guess what Putin is doing in this case is called, how would you say it? It's making the aggressor feel like the victim. They have entered another country, but it's because they're the victim. They're the one that's being hurt. The Russian people are being hurt by this situation over there in Ukraine that doesn't exist. So they have turned themselves into a victim in order to garner sympathy from the Russian people, while simultaneously saying, there's nothing happening here. These are just military operations. Nothing's going on. It's not happening. Nothing's happening, right? They say interesting things like that it's just a special operation to demilitarize Ukraine, which I think is important because I think they actually are trying to demilitarize Ukraine. They don't want Ukraine to have a military because they want to be the Ukraine's military. They want Ukraine to be a puppet country, just like Belarus is, and to be all under the control of Russia. So they're saying we're just trying to demilitarize them. Why? I don't know. Why would that be an acceptable answer to what you're doing? Beats me.
Yep.
Let's see. Some of the other things that they like to say is going on over there is that it's not Russians that are doing this stuff. It's actually Ukrainians that are putting on Russian uniforms and then they're shooting civilians. Russians aren't really doing it. It's Ukraine that are putting this propaganda out there that they're creating. So they're making propaganda of propaganda of propaganda.
January 6th playbook there, right?
Right. For real.
The false actors.
Yes. And then they like to also say that Kiev, well, it's not Kiev. We don't say Kiev anymore. That's the Russian way to say it. Ukraine say something close to Kiev. I can't quite say it the way they say it. Kiev. That Kiev is under the control of warlords and nationalist gangs. And that they are waiting, that the people are waiting Russia's assistance, that the people themselves want Russia to come in. They desire Russia to come in, which is an interesting point. If you are a military soldier, if you are a Russian soldier in a tank who's wandering into the Ukraine for some reason, because they seem to also be thinking that the Ukrainian people want them there. There should be no fighting. They all should be accepting us with open arms. What's happening here? You want me to shoot at these people? You know, you see plenty of Russian soldiers who look awfully confused about what they're doing there too, which is great propaganda for the Ukrainian side. That appears to be true, which I like.
Would appear because a lot of people have been saying that some of the Russians that are now in Ukraine were told that they were leaving Russia for training exercises, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I'll be honest, it's kind of difficult to separate fact from fiction on this side. And I've seen plenty of people online say, well, I mean, if it's pro-Ukraine propaganda, then, why not put it out there just to embolden Ukrainians and shit?
Listen,
and it's
I understand the problem with that thinking, but also I feel the same way.
Oh, no, totally. But it does provide you a little bit of a looking glass into the thought process of Russians that are supporting Russian propaganda, right? Is that some of it might not be true, but since it's on the right side, quote, as long as you've been convinced of that, some of it not being true doesn't really strike you as that bad. Even though in reality, all of it is untrue. It's so difficult to kind of pull the veil back on much of it. And what I've also seen is a lot of Russians talking about how, well, clearly some of it is untrue because there's 5 different stories for each action that are being brought out by the Russian media. There's that there's Nazis, there's a genocide, it's that there's that they've gotten like too close to Western value. Like there's all these different stories. And so even the Russians are going, of course, one of them is a lie, but the general vibe is right. They've vibe checked Ukraine on that and they've gone, yeah, bad, sure. I mean, truth is impossible to get over here. So what's the point of even challenging it?
What's not only that, but like, what do they risk by challenging it? By knowing the truth probably would be a painful reality to realize you are sending off your sons and your husbands to a war that you don't think is happening, right? You don't want to think is happening. It's awful to think about it's happening. Along those lines, what I do find interesting is there was, again, you know how I said the Russian media is run by the state. So the journalists have to report what they have to report. And one thing that they're not reporting is they weren't reporting deaths at all. There were over 5,000 deaths and nobody in Russia knows anything about it who are watching state-run media. And there was one point where the journalists kind of took over one of the state-run medias and they put out this statement, knowing that they could, saying this is basically acting as a foreign, what's the word? A foreign actor. If you are doing something that is benefiting anybody but Russia, then you're a foreign actor and you're doing this for them. You're not telling the truth. You're a liar. So this is what the journalists put up on their website for their news. They said, "We urge you to cease this insanity. Please do not send your husbands and sons to a surefire death. Putin is forcing us to lie and is risking all of our lives. We have been isolated from the entire world. For what? So Putin can make the history textbooks? This is not our war. We hope we can stop him. And it was like there were over 5,300 Russian deaths in those 4 days that they were not allowed to report on.
Yep.
And they were just like, I can't lie anymore. I can't lie anymore when there's so much happening. You know, the Ukrainian people were not lying down. They were not happy to see them. They were not okay with anything that was happening. And how could they possibly be? Because it didn't even look like they were aiming at military targets. We see children's hospitals getting hit. You know, we see apartment buildings. And it's like, how does this make any sense?
They're certainly also aiming at military targets, right? You're not saying that they're purely aiming at civilian targets, right?
I feel like recently it seems like they've hit more military targets, but for a while it didn't seem like any. Now, again, that could be me watching Ukrainian propaganda. Showing me a military target, why would they want to show me that?
Because I remember the first day of the invasion, that was a lot of like what the New York Times was reporting, was that there had been a ton of military targets that had been attacked like all at once. And then they had taken over a couple of airports and like communication hubs, basically, were what they were trying to hit really quickly, which is why Elon Musk did the whole Starnet thing. So,
which is kind of cool.
it's kind of cool, but it definitely opens up the conversation of how powerful should a private citizen be that he can. I think it's awesome that he did it. I'm not saying it's bad that he did it. Okay, there are some Elon Musk haters that go so far, and it's like, oh, he did something cool, that sucks, and it's like, yeah. But it should start a conversation about how powerful individual citizens are, that they can provide like an incredibly powerful tool to an entire nation of people because they were convinced to on Twitter.
I mean, it is interesting to think about it that way. I think it does one thing to suddenly see how an individual can suddenly have so much more value than we normally think they do. But at the same time, we can look at Putin through that same lens and say, this is one man waging a war that nobody's
It's one man
for.
In politics, so we're more used to it, right? But a businessman being able to seriously affect how a war looks is so strange on that scale. And it's good now because the guy used it for good. But you could just as easily picture a situation where someone was convinced of something else and could very easily affect a bunch of satellites in the sky to provide power to enemies of the good.
Oh, I mean, that's true. That's true. So I guess we all have to be on the right side of Elon Musk now.
Yep. Well, I mean, he's a what I've seen a lot of people say is this is just another example of the fact that our nation's billionaires are effectively nation states at this point. They are economies unto themselves, and they produce commodities and can give them at will to countries for political reasons. And it's far beyond the power of lobbying. It's like, yep.
It's interesting, and we almost demand it of them, right? Because if you have a ton of money, more than you could possibly spend, and you keep it for yourself, then you're an evil person. So now you basically have to act as your own nation state and do giant humanitarian moves. Otherwise, you're the worst person on the planet. There's no winning. There's no winning.
Yeah, man. I have so much sympathy for billionaires.
All right. We'll step away from billionaires and their sympathies. All right, let's talk about
them in my part.
More of the crazy stuff that Russia was putting out. The Ministry of Defense said that Russian prisoners of war were being tortured by the Ukraine, but while simultaneously saying, "What prisoners of war? There's no war. There's nothing going on." At the same time,
yep.
Right. There's just tons of that. And then instead of looking at how the gas prices are being affected in Russia, they will just point over to Europe. Look over there. Look at how this is affecting Europe right now. Their gas prices have gone up 25%. The same thing with how is it affecting the ruble? We won't talk about how it's affecting the ruble. We'll talk about other things. How is it affecting Europe? Because we have to keep pointing the lens elsewhere. Don't look at what's going on. This non-war, this military operation is affecting Russia. negatively. We can't look at that. You can certainly go to the bank and get more than $20 out at a time. Don't worry. Everything's fine. It's fascinating. Let's see. Okay, there was also a point where they were saying that Russia had made deals with local cities and local Ukrainian leaders, and everything was fine. They just want support and order and peace. Great words. Support, order, and peace. Support, order, and peace. Right? Again, we're trying to demilitarize. We are Russia. We are holding you in our loving embrace.
Very. You haven't read 1984, right, Mom?
No. Do I sound like I have?
You do, because a central element of it is these different ministries and the words that they just use. So one of them is the ministry of love, which is where political prisoners are taken and tortured for their information, is the ministry of love. And so just it was very funny that we take you into our embrace. I don't know.
Your loving embrace that nobody asked for, right?
Read that book. Yep.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, the Russian army is not currently occupying Ukraine, but they're taking all measures to protect its civilians. What does that mean?
Very kind of them. Yep.
Yeah. The army's not occupying Ukraine, but we are somehow simultaneously protecting the civilians.
That is an interesting point, right? Because the numbers that we've seen in terms of Ukrainian deaths versus the numbers that we've seen in terms of Russian deaths, you could see it as supporting two sides of that argument, right? On one hand, you could say, look at, the Ukrainians are causing much greater number of deaths. The Russians are coming in and trying not to kill people. And surely there's plenty of videos of Ukrainians standing in front of tanks and doing all kinds of shit that I think generally you would expect the military to doze them over. But they are avoiding killing these people that are in these videos in 90% of the cases that I've seen. So on one hand, I think that kind of could be used by the Russians to show, look, we're not being aggressive here. The only thing that's aggressive is the giant tank that's going through your city. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, are saying that the way of spinning that is saying, well, this is what happens in a war when one side has something to fight for and the other doesn't want to fight at all. The only person that wants to fight is the oligarch that is reigning supreme over them. So that's the end of my point.
Let's see. I'm gonna keep going. Russia also says that Ukraine is placing large firearms and mines near housing and schools and kindergartens. So that's a good way to make it look like Russia's not responsible for those things blowing up. It's the Ukrainians are blowing up their own stuff for some reason.
That's classic evil, man.
Okay, lots of stuff. Okay, I feel like we've covered a lot of them. They kind of start to repeat themselves after a while. But then if you go and you look at what Ukrainian propaganda looks like, it looks different. It looks completely different. One, because I don't think it's intentional. It's not. It doesn't look like you have an office of information that's controlling the narrative. You have people out there that are controlling the narrative. And it's freaking great, right? We see videos of a man smoking a cigarette, carrying a landmine across the street, and
I saw that video.
Into the forest, right? So, okay, we're saying the people of Ukraine are badasses, right? Right off the bat, they will get it done. They give no fucks. We will pick up landmines while smoking cigarettes, whatever, right? We see various farmers' tractors pulling away tractors. They are just dragging them away to who knows where, and it's hilarious to watch. I've seen them pull a different armored vehicle and one that had like a big old launcher of some sort. I've seen 3 different videos of tractors yanking away fun military equipment, and you're like, is this real? I don't know if this is real. Please let it be real, because what does it show you about the spirit of the Ukrainian people? It's gorgeous.
You want it to be real so bad. And it's funny because it's democratized, right? One of the sides of propaganda are very centralized and very much trying to be strategic about spreading a certain message. Whereas there's such an enormous mass of people that are on the side of Ukraine and want Ukraine to be seen in a certain way and will search out ways to support them because they feel like it's a patriotic duty to support them. And it's two completely different kinds of propaganda. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just briefly, I know that we're not doing so. To the audience, one of our original concepts for season 2 was trying to come up with a constitution for the internet, and we've kind of backdoored that idea. The entire season is not going to be about that, but we might tap into it. I would also like to start nominating a parliament of nobody asked, and my first nomination is YouTube user SM. I would like him to be the representative for whataboutism, and he can just come into all of our programs. And whenever we're talking about a subject, he'll find a completely unrelated subject and go, well, what about that? And then if we talk about that subject, what I would really like him to do is say, what about something else? Because the entire form of argument is fucking stupid. But we need one in our parliament. So,
Oh
SM,
my gosh.
I'm nominating you.
Listen, I do see this African thing being brought up a lot. So that's talking about the borders, trying to flee, trying to get into Poland. I don't really know what we want Ukraine to do about that right now, right? Ukraine is in the middle.
Is he calling black people Africans? I did not even understand that's what he was talking about.
Did I say black people? I mean actual Africans. A lot of them are from Nigeria. They're Nigerian students that probably should have left earlier when they knew there was a problem, that stayed. And they can't seem to get out of the country. And it's kind of difficult to ask for the Ukrainian people to worry about that right now. They need to contact their local embassies if they are having a hard time fleeing. But my understanding is everybody's having a hard time getting out of the country on some level. Like, it takes you 24 hours by the time you make it to the actual border to get through it. It is everybody's fleeing.
So I have seen what you're talking about, and I will actually kind of, I'll pull back my rage just a little bit, because I honestly believed that SM was going like, well, there's wars going on in Africa. Why aren't we talking about that war? And it's like,
no,
because we're talking about this right now, you fucking idiot. But you weren't saying that. You were saying something related to Ukraine. I still think it's whataboutism, because you literally said what about. But I will pull back the amount of rage that I had in that parliament nomination, because you were at least talking about the topic at hand. I guess that the important thing to emphasize there, and something that our longtime viewers would certainly know that we believe to be true, is that more than one thing can be bad at a time. For example, I believe very significantly in a lot of American values. I can also believe that the American judicial system massively mistreats almost everyone that goes through it. Like America, things America do bad, these are not things that I need to justify holding simultaneously. I am capable of seeing multiple things as both positive and bad. So bad things can happen in a place that we're currently advocating is being invaded and it's being taken advantage of, and that the Russians are bad. Russians are bad. Denying entry of African Ukrainians or Africans in Ukraine, also bad.
Yeah, they're trying to flee. They were having a hard time getting out. They should have probably left earlier. I'm sorry, it stinks, but I think it's really too much to ask the president of the Ukraine to worry about that right now, in particular, when he's just trying to stay alive right now and to keep his country from being taken over by Russians. So it's just it's an impossible thing to argue about. It feels minuscule to me in the grand scope of things. It really does.
It does. It is a very anecdotal thing. It strikes me, honestly, as when COVID had just begun and people were talking about all of the restrictions and people were trying to figure out how to react. There was a contingency of people on my side of the aisle that were saying, well, like, what about how these restrictions affect like minorities in Chicago? And it's like, you're thinking very small. We're talking about COVID. And then once we figure out the COVID umbrella, we can operate down. But there's a line of priority here. And right now, a country is being invaded. And the other country has said that target number one is the president of Ukraine and his family. So give me just a little bit of a giant break with that.
They've left. You've offended them, Colin.
Oh,
I think
no.
people are under the misimpression that because I'm nice.
Wait, people, I mean, let's just start with that misimpression that you're nice.
Hey, how dare you? No, it's just difficult. Like, you can't get offended by things that are just, I don't know. I guess you were a little bit offensive because you were attacking about, be the person that just says what about stuff. Listen, I agree. This person can care about what's going on over there. It is a humanitarian issue or a human issue if you want to frame it that way. But everything happening over there is a human issue. We can't pick through the tiny bits when it's
you also can't
all
simultaneously
terrible.
talk about all things. And that's the point he's trying to make is, why aren't you talking about this one thing? Look, man, there's a billion things happening in Ukraine right now. It is a country of 40 million people, and like 700,000 have gotten out. Shit is happening everywhere. This is a big story that he's brought up, and it certainly could be used to talk about a larger topic. But right now, you're coming onto a podcast about propaganda and asking us to talk about something else. So give me a break.
Yes. The Nigerian consulate, embassy, whatever, go talk. They need to go take care of this. It's as simple as that. Ukraine can't solve this problem. They've got other things happening. Anyway, moving on.
It worked, though. We talked about it.
We did talk about it. So nice job. You got us there. You got us sidetracked. Okay, so let's see. So we saw cool things. What did we see? We saw that old man, that man carrying his landmine. We saw tractors pulling tanks. We saw, what else did we see? We saw captured Russian soldiers that looked confused about what was going on. They're like, I didn't know that I was supposed to be in a war. What's going on here? What you're asking of me is terrible. I don't hate, you would see quite a bit of that. You saw entire platoons surrender to the Ukraine. Let's see. You saw spoiled rations, right? You saw Russians that had 7-year-old spoiled rations. So that's great propaganda saying Russia is not taking care of its soldiers. It doesn't care. It's thrown them in with no objectives. It's thrown them in with not high-tech equipment, very low-tech, old-school Soviet-era tanks that you're like, wait, why are we so scared of Russia, right? It doesn't. This stuff looks crazy. This looks antiquated. What am I looking at here? And then we see the ghost of Kiev, right? His numbers are supposed to, of the 29 jets that have been shot down, he's supposed to have done 21 of them. So he's a real person. He's no longer just a ghost. He really exists. But it's great propaganda, whether it's one person or not, to say that there is this great fighter out there who is protecting the Ukraine, that Ukraine is not just, bowing over.
The first base in the century.
Yes. And then you have the very, very best, beautiful piece of propaganda, which is President Zelensky himself, right?
Daddy. Yep.
He's a baddie. Everybody thinks he's sexy. We see him saying things like, I don't need a bus out of town. I need more bullets. He's like, I'm not leaving. My family's not leaving. We are here. We are doing it. And don't believe anything you hear about us surrendering. We will not surrender, bless Ukraine. And it's just like, defend our independence. It's a great word, right? You got to watch the language. Defend our independence. I mean, he is the best. And you can see, it's interesting watching that he used to be a comedian. He used to be an actor. And you'll see a lot of that stuff popping up on social media. Him dancing around in leather pants and stuff like that. And you can see it in both directions, where we'll show Putin and with this very ominous music, powerful music, and we're like, he was a spy. He was a, part of the KGB. We make him look like a badass. And then we show Zelensky buffooning around, but it's not working because people are like, dang, he can dance. Look at that. Look at him in his leather pants. Go, go, go. And also, it's like he's got layers. He's he's a real person for the people. He's in the trenches. He's doing it. So propaganda against him isn't working because he is, man, that man's voice, he sounds like, I don't know, he's got something going on in his throat, but I don't care. Just keep talking. I'm just here for it.
It's good propaganda.
It's good propaganda, and it's interesting propaganda because it's almost, that one's being created by the people instead of being shoved by the nation of Russia, right?
Organic versus manufactured, man.
Yes.
Everyone always wants to be part of something organic, and then to put, I mean, something as high stakes behind this organic ordeal is like, well, there you go, you know?
Yeah, it's really cool. Now, I did want to talk briefly, like, we could be here all day talking about this thing.
We can just skip my topic. I'm fine with that. I don't really care.
Oh, you want to skip your topic? You just want me to just keep raging and going?
I am completely fine with us continuing on this topic.
Okay.
I got no beef.
Probably about 2 days in, one of the Russian state media agencies accidentally, released an article, if you will, that was a little premature, right? They were saying that they had already won when they had not already won, right?
Yep.
It's 2 days in. We are on day 7 right now. And they just assumed that they were going to be able to roll in there and take over. So they had already pre-written these ridiculous news articles, and somebody translated them into English. And what they say is, I mean, first of all, it's very telling, but also it's like, what is this? What is this? And the fact that you already had this written and you accidentally released it on day 2 is insanity. Mm-hmm. Shall I read some of it to you?
Absolutely.
Okay. A new world is being born before our eyes. Russia's military operation, you heard that, not war, military operation, in the Ukraine. So just for knowledge sake, the Ukraine doesn't like to be called the Ukraine. That's what they were called when they were part of the Soviet Union. It's like you're being identified as a region, not as an independent country. So you hear that here. Yep. So Russia's military operation in the Ukraine is opening a new era and in 3 different dimensions. I don't know what that means. And of course, in a 4th. I wonder, what does this mean? Intra-Russian one. Here begins a new period in ideology and in the very model of our socio-economic structure. We should discuss this separately a little later. I don't know. Maybe they just write gibberish in Russian newspapers because this is just not the way you do it. Okay. Russia is rebuilding its unity. Its unity. Listen, you hear it. You hear what they're doing. The tragedy of 1991, that terrible catastrophe in our history. It's unnatural wound. It's unnatural. It's unnatural to be an independent nation away from Russia. Ugh. Had been overcome, yes, at great cost, and yes, through tragic events of a civil war. Because even now, brothers shoot brothers, divided by their allegiance to Russia and Ukrainian armies. Wait, what are you talking about? Brothers shooting brothers? Terrible losses? A war with Ukraine? I thought we weren't in a war. I mean, you just hear it all here. It's just one lie after another lopped on top of each other. How do you keep them straight? Okay. But Ukraine as an anti-Russia will no longer exist. Russia is reinstating its historic unity, assembling the Russian world. Assembling the Russian world.
I'm just waiting for you to say Soviet at some point.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see if that's in here.
Well, because if you keep saying unity, I'm thinking, you mean a union?
A Soviet Union? Yes, I think that's exactly what we mean.
Yeah. Okay.
The Russian people together in all its entirety, the greater Russia, the white Russians, what do you call it? The Bolshevik? What is it?
Bolsheviks?
No, the other country. Not Belarus. How do you say that correctly?
Belarus.
Belarus. Okay. Let me back that up.
Yep.
In all its entirety, the Greater Russians, the White Russians, which are the Belarusians, that's just written weird, and the Lesser Russians, Ukrainians.
What the fuck?
That's what I'd say. I don't know if that just translates differently
Yeah.
but in English.
Was this really badly translated? Because there are a few points where I'm like, there's just no way that
I just
this
think
was
some things
bungled
just
so badly.
I just think some things just don't mesh in English. Like we would never say it that way, but in Russian, this probably is a completely sensible thing to say.
Well, and I wonder about the war and the military operation both being in there. You know, I mean, I would not put it past Russians to have 15 different words for war, much like there's all the different words for snow.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Had we refused to do this, who asked you to do this? We would have not only betrayed the memory of our ancestors, but would have been cursed by our descendants for allowing the breakup of Russian lands. So, like, Russia legitimately believes Ukraine should be part of them. And the idea that they are a democratic nation in any way is an affront to their ancestors and their descendants. We need to be an entire collection back again as the Soviet Union because of this terrible tragedy that happened. It's just not going to stand. Okay. Vladimir Putin has taken upon himself, that being said, without a drop of exaggeration, a historic responsibility, having decided not to leave the Ukrainian question to future generations. The necessity of his decision would have always remained an important problem for Russia. The two key reasons, the question of national security, that is, out of Ukraine, the creation of an anti-Russia, and an outpost for which the West would have put pressure on us. It's only second in importance out of these reasons. I don't know if that was two reasons or one reason. Either way, it's anti-Russia and it is an outpost for the West. Maybe that's two reasons. They seem to go together. I'm just saying, Putin is laying it out. He's telling you what he's doing. This is not any other reasons he has invented are not real. They're not real. He's trying to take it all over. If you look at Belarus right now, and you see that they just recently signed some sort of a legislation agreement of some sort that would allow Belarus basically to get its nuclear weapons back while simultaneously keeping the leader who is currently there in office until 2035. Right? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want the people not to have the ability to choose who their president is? We can't have that. We need the puppet oligarch that is there right now who will let Russia do whatever they want. We need the puppet. And that's what's going to happen in Ukraine. He's going to reinstate the president that was 2 presidents ago, right, who had been tried in Ukraine and found guilty of treason. 12 years in prison was what he was sentenced to. But he fled. He's going to get reinstated and be the puppet and basically just hand Ukraine right on over to Russia. That's what we need. All of the oligarchs are going to get together and just let Russia run the show. Any Western influence out. It's insane. It's insane. He's going to keep going. He was in Sweden's airspace today. Sweden is not part of NATO. Russian fighter jets they just came in a little bit, right? They're just poking bears left and right. Oh, you're not in NATO? Let me make sure. First of all, they're the ones that are fighting to keep people out of NATO, right? Russia is. They're the ones that are arguing all the time. No, you can't let them in NATO. Same thing with Moldova. Moldova's going to be who's going to get taken over next. And it's just going to keep going. If we
Did you see the map?
The map. Oh,
that the Belarus president that was standing in front of that showed like the post-war, and it had Moldova as part of it, like that was in the immediate near plans.
And they're going to break up the Ukraine into 4 pieces, give part of it to Belarus and part of it to Russia. But really, that's the same as giving it all to Russia, right?
Yep. It is strange, the poking of bears that there. I mean, Switzerland, of all, why do you want Switzerland to join NATO? Why? Why would you do
Sweden.
that?
Sweden.
Sweden, sorry.
Well, I mean,
But
if you
why?
look at where Finland and Sweden are in relationship to Russia. They
Yep.
are right sitting on top of it.
Yep.
It would be foolish to think that he doesn't also want that. He wants it all.
Well, he wants everything. Yeah, he's world domination, everything. He's a classic villain. We haven't really seen one for a little bit. We haven't seen someone that's like, yeah, I will control the world. It's like, hey, man.
For real.
I don't think so.
I just a little bit of pro-Ukrainian propaganda that I enjoy is when they will show pictures of Putin riding his horse, which I'm sure with his shirt off, right? Which I'm sure was meant to make him seem very virile, but instead people are just making fun of his nipples. So it's just,
He's always just been such a clown, man.
He's a clown, and he's listen. You see him tittering all the time too. You'll see him with people who he likes, whether it be Trump, whether it be the leader of Belarus. He's got something with the leader of Spain that I don't totally understand, but they'll all be tittering in the corner. Like they like to jostle each other's bowls around or something. It is weird. It's weird.
Oh no, we're on the same page.
Now I could keep reading this. I haven't read this whole thing because I got through 2 paragraphs and I was like, holy shit. He's laid his whole plan out. And it's just like, do I need to read further? He's told me what he's doing. Absolutely. He's told me everything he said till now is a lie and what he's doing. And anybody who is a Russian who is saying anything against him, you can get 15 years in prison, depending on what it is, or 20. You can no longer. You used to be able to protest peacefully if you were in small groups, and now you can't even really do it if you're just one person standing out there. You will get arrested and potentially disappeared. He's disappeared many a person. He's poisoned many a person. There are things to legitimately. There's a reason people are afraid to do anything, and of course, nobody wants a world war, right? If NATO gets dragged in, it's a world war. You don't know what's going to happen. You do know that.
Can you see this map?
Are you pulling it up? Let's see.
It should be shared right now.
Hold on. I'll add it.
Oh, I see. All right. I just wanted to. I've been sharing this for a hot second. So now it feels a little bit less relevant. But here's my boy, the Belarusian orb. And I mean, the thing that is incredible about it is just how accurate it is, especially the places in which Russia entered Ukraine are completely accurate up here through Crimea out here. And then, so I guess the one point of confusion for me, it seems like it's uncontested, the Moldova thing, but people are saying that this is proof that Moldova is going to be invaded soon. And I'm looking at this and I just don't see any of those same markers that are within the Ukraine.
Where's Moldova
my gosh,
on this?
Ukraine. Moldova's right here, right?
Oh, is it?
I believe so, yeah.
I think people that know, right?
Right.
I'm not totally on, I don't know everything about that geopolitical area. We understand that it's complex, that, with the breakup of the Soviet Union and, these countries deciding if they want to have their own identity, that looked different for every country. Some of them didn't. Some of them really did. Were happy to still be part of, the protection of that union. Or they just didn't have the strength on their own to overpower what Russia was doing. My question is, how much of what Russia is doing is based in reality, and how much is the propaganda machine and us believing that they are stronger than they are? Like, we know that they have nuclear weapons.
We know they have nuclear weapons, but it is funny. I actually think, I mean, for the longest time, even if you asked Americans who are the superpowers right now, I mean, there's the EU as an organism. It's a single organism. And then there's China and there's Russia. And if anything, I think it's just made it incredibly clear how weak Russia is. Russia, I didn't realize how not worried about Russia I have to be. I also don't think I had a clear picture of what war was going to look like in this kind of post-nuclear era between superpowers. And now with all of the kind of financial sanctions that are against Russia and how swiftly, pun intended, and effectively they are affecting Russian citizens, it really exposes the fact that they are 5 steps away from North Korea, right? They're kind of
Yeah.
a joke run by a terrible man.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for us to take him out, which I think I'm more radical than most Americans in terms of my opinion that people like this, we should be intervening.
I mean, I think
Uh,
he has indicated to us that that is a valid perspective. I think he's indicated that to us. I mean, he has sent like 400, they call it mercenaries, into Ukraine to target Zelensky, right?
yep.
He wants Zelensky gone so that he can put who he wants in there. It's very clear that that's what's happening. The idea that the same thing isn't being directed at him, but on a world scale, is foolish. Of course, everybody has got to be keeping track of where he's at. He's in a bunker somewhere, I assume. I mean, I suppose he could be, in Florida. He could be anywhere. He could be in Spain. I don't know where he is, but I would think somebody does. And unfortunately, I feel like it's got to be somebody close to him that does it. And everybody is so afraid. They are so afraid to say the wrong thing because he will kill you. He doesn't just say he will. Or he'll say he won't, and he will. Maybe that's more accurate. I didn't kill him. Boom!
The other thing that I'm worried about is that I do genuinely think that Trump is a big stupid baby, but now you've put in front of Trump an example of what's possible, and I do worry.
Cool.
Why did you put this up?
It was an accident. I didn't know that's what I was doing.
Well, I'm very mad at you now. You've reminded me of a past trauma, and why aren't we talking about that, Mom?
Your past trauma?
What about my feelings about that comment?
I think your feelings were made known pretty quickly that you were not here for it.
Well, it's just so fucking stupid. And I'm not always on these screens, and I see people trying to just needle and just be like, and then there's all these people that bend over to this ridiculous pressure, and it's like, we're talking about this right now. There are so many things. So shut the fuck up.
No. I know. But maybe you could have been a little nicer.
But why? Also, to be clear, there was a genuine misunderstanding because I did not realize he was talking about something to do with Ukraine.
I agree. I agree. It was genuine, but maybe you gotta needle down first. You gotta get to find out what they're really talking about before you fly off the handle.
Mom, you have changed ever since you got trained. You don't want to be genuine on our show.
There's 5 people watching this.
No, there's 5 people watching this, okay? But ever since you got on the John Yates stream and everyone's just blowing air up your ass, you just won't throw it down.
Some people are doing the opposite.
Won't keep it real. You won't keep it real, okay? You won't keep it real on these streets and start throwing down on some dumb fucking commenters. So
I just feel like there can be peaceful resolution once there's understanding.
Yes, but some people don't.
And let's understand that Putin, his motives are very clear, and he's dishonest about what they are. Except here, where he's written them out very clearly and very plainly. Accidentally.
Yep, no, that's pretty good. I'm with you. But I am genuinely worried about Trump looking at, and the fact that he called Putin a genius, I'm genuinely worried about him getting reelected and being like, remember when I tried to buy Greenland? We're bombing that shit now, baby. So
here's the thing. As much as I don't like talking about Trump, because it's just, if he feels like a dangerous topic most of the time. I feel like he is the equivalent of a Russian oligarch, right? He is a puppet figurehead that Putin was happy to have sitting there, right? Because he knew, with the U.S. being part of NATO, if the U.S. doesn't sign off on something, then NATO doesn't do it most of the time, And so if you have Trump, who's like, yo, we aren't going to go and interact with Russia like that. He's a good dude. I'm not doing that. He's got every right to try to reunify his country or whatever. That's to Putin's benefit. So to me, Trump is the equivalent of a oligarch figurehead.
I think that he is currently the equivalent of that, but I think that he wants to be Putin. I think that
yes.
Do you ever meet people and you hear the things that they say, and slowly over the course of knowing them, you realize that something is broken deep down within them, and they've completely messed up what they look up to. And they get so excited about certain things, and you're like, oh, someone raised you wrong, and not in the like weird stuff. Oh, he wasn't raised right. Like where now you're so impressed by glitz and glamour and showing off. Like I think a lot of like the idolization of the rapper lifestyle is kind of this, or the rock star lifestyle is this broken in you. Well, when that person gets power, they idolize Vladimir Putin because they don't care about the atrocities and the responsibilities of power. They care about the fact that he's flashy as fuck, that he's putting out shirtless photos on horses, and he's taking stuff and not being told what to do. And Trump is like, I want to take stuff and not be told what to do. I don't like when they show me. I'm a little baby. So like that is what worries me, is that he's got a new example and he's like, well, I want a big shiny car. I want Greenland. I walked in, I was like, wow, that's a nice Greenland. So got to throw that in there. I'm not letting you call me out for this, but you never called me out for saying Trump as many times as we said it. So I'm not doing the punishment.
Do those rules roll over into season 2?
It's the whole concept of the show, Mom. Until we figure out a better concept for the show, the idea is that you can't mention certain things. And
we also mentioned COVID. You also mentioned COVID.
I know. It's like I'm trying to get punished and I'm not being allowed to.
Would you like to be punished?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not giving it to you. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm saying let's throw some entertainment. You remember when we watched Rhett and Link? Those two? And they're both great, and they've got that morning show. And I see Rhett as the one that plays things like we the audience would. And then Link is the one who prioritizes entertainment. And this show needs somebody that prioritizes entertainment. So you handle the podcast like a real person, and your boy is going to be a spoon pirate if someone remembers how the show works.
You are the best spoon pirate around. There's just no denying.
Well, there's also not a ton of competition, but I will take that compliment where I can get it.
I mean, I do think it's interesting what you're talking about with regard to Trump, though, and how I just think, like you do get to a certain level of money, and I don't know that he is, but I think he wants to be, if he is or isn't, where you can have everything you want, and so you have to want something new and bigger, right? And so you do start to lose your normal moral compass. And I think you were talking about that a little bit when you were talking about Elon Musk.
Yep.
And I do think that this will move into what your topic was with regard to sanctions and stuff, and how that is going to also affect how we look at this. Or do you not want to talk about it?
I'm sorry. Say it again. Sorry. I was trying to find a page to pull up.
I'm a big fan of how you're lit right now.
It got dark. And I don't have a girlfriend here to turn on the light over there. She just got in. She just came in, and I would love. She literally just walked in, and I think it might happen.
I saw you point to
it. It's slightly lighter. What were you asking? And I'm sorry.
I was asking. We were talking about how rich people, they want bigger and bigger things because they are no longer satisfied with normal stuff.
Yep.
And so,
Well, and Putin has gotten to the Alexander wept for there were no more worlds to conquer, and he's just trying to find another one. He's like, and if we give it to him, for the record, if we give him Crimea, he's taking Ukraine. If we give him Ukraine,
yeah,
he's taking Moldova, and he's taking fucking Sweden and Lithuania and all these motherfuckers. So at some point, you got to put a cap in his ass, man. I don't know what to tell you.
we do. We can't allow him to continue. He could have, if he had just stopped with Crimea, nobody would have really. Everybody would have been like, "It's kind of your problem."
It's pretty bad. I'll throw out there, not a good move. Okay, stop stealing shit. But it was interesting how the international community was like, "Hey, okay, but not all of it," you know. And now, at least they're standing by their words. I'm very excited about the concept of financial sanctions. I think it's going to have long-term negative effects on our economy because the economy is based on speculation, and we have now created a very clear example of how political turmoil can halt the economy and how our electronic systems need to be backed up in a way. We've taken away the reliability of some of our electronic systems for the sake of this financial war, which I think was the right move, but it is going to have economic downstream effects. Honestly, some of these Bitcoin motherfuckers are probably going to use this to their benefit. All of those clowns. But
How?
What?
How
Well,
does a Bitcoin?
the concept is that it's decentralized, right? That a government would not be able to take away your Bitcoin or monitor who you can transact with. You can transact with anyone as long as the internet exists. So that's the reliability concern. And if the internet doesn't exist, we're fucked anyway. So in terms of speculation, it's not a big enough deal. And now we see the effects of centralization on an entire country that has fallen out of favor. And people in these financial institutions are going to say, okay, well, what if my company needs to do trade? What if a larger country falls out of favor? I mean, clearly China is a big concern for falling out of favor. They're looking at Taiwan right now and licking their chops. I mean, the effects of economic sanctions there would be massive. And the market is speculative. So if people are speculating, oh, you know, our systems, our banks and the SWIFT system are much more powerful than we expected, and our political leaders have a ton of power to turn off that faucet, it's going to affect the economy because of the speculation upon that idea.
Well, I will say, you know, the difference between the Russians' financials and ours is that, you know, if the stock market dips below 5%, right? If we lose 5% in the stock market, it shuts it off. It's like, no, because it is so speculative and because there's so much tied up in it that would destroy our economy. It's just like, nope, done trading for today. 5% is enough. Where, you know, Russia, it dropped like 40% or something, some ridiculously high number before they said, ugh. So it is an interesting difference. To me, I worry less about the speculation and more about, I guess, the real world tangible items of it, right? We are not 100% non-reliant on other countries, right? We rely on them for all manner of trade, certainly gas, right? While we are getting closer to being self-sufficient, we aren't.
We are a net exporter of several gases.
Well, that's of liquid, but it's not the gas you put in your car. It's not that one. It's not.
Yeah,
go look it up. It isn't. It's liquid. What do you call it? Liquid. The stuff that you heat your house with.
Natural gas.
What do you call that stuff? Yes, it's liquid natural gas. That is where we are a net exporter. We actually, I think we might be the number one.
I worked for the lobbying effort for this, Mom.
Oh yeah, you did.
You remember when I hated my job?
You did.
Yep.
Right, but I'm just saying, when it comes to what we put in our gas tank, we still receive imports. We still receive a certain amount from Russia, and you know it's going to.
We also export a ton of it. The whole system's very strange. So, but
we do. It's a weird system.
Certainly, cutting off Russia would decrease the world's supply. The cost of oil is related to the world, therefore, that. But we've gotten to an hour. I'm gonna cut us off because I have a concert to go to.
What?
But I'm going to Aries.
I don't know what that is.
You know, it's a dad and I like him. He's a singer guy.
He's a singer guy.
Good dude, big fan. But I think we've done a good little tease for possibly what is next week, which is cryptocurrency and financial institutions. Also, I recently attended a court case for no other reason than I just wanted to go to it. I recently sat in the gallery of a court case for no other reason than I wanted to go to it. And I do think at some point that I might want to talk about New York's sexual assault laws, because they're a little bit, and by New York's, I mean 32 states, sexual assault laws, because I think that people think more progress has been made than has been made. And so it's possible that in the court case that I attended, for no reason other than I just wanted to attend it, it's possible that the defense of a rapist is saying, well, we can't know if she consented because she was blackout drunk. And that's the defense.
That's not a defense. That's admission of guilt.
No. Well, it's admission of guilt in the public eye, certainly. Okay. We all think that's rape, but does the law? No. And you have to prosecute on the law. And part of their argument, it's not their only argument, because essentially what they're trying to do is just convolute facts. But if you voluntarily took away your own bodily agency, then if somebody sexually assaults you during that, unless you're unconscious, then it's not rape. And so because blackout is a state of no memory but still being conscious, it's possible that you consented. And all of these rapists can use that and say, she just doesn't remember consenting. And she got herself drunk, so not rape. Sorry, baby.
That's the worst thing I've heard.
I know. Let's talk more about it.
Oh my gosh.
The world's mad fucked. But, hey.
It's like saying a dead body consented. Well, she said it was fine when she, and then she died. So it was, I mean.
Well, it's more, well, yeah, no, but sure.
I'm just saying. What?
I don't know. I don't understand your analogy, but we'll have plenty of time to go over it in a further episode of Nobody Asked, which I'm sure will invigorate no emotions. So I'd just like to say thank you to all of our listeners. I'm amazed that people made it over to YouTube. Thank you.
They did not.
Well, a few people did.
Well, I mean, until you offended them.
We offended one dude, okay? We
could be a lady. I don't know. I don't know who SM is.
Look, man, they were hiding behind a couple of letters, so I don't give a fuck. But whoever it was, we offended them. But there were other viewers, okay? So give me a break. We really never got many viewers on Instagram.
We didn't.
Thank you to those that did come. I don't know why this is controversial.
Leave comments. You know, if you watch it after the live, please leave comments. I am fine if they're terrible. If you just want to say Colin's mean, yes. Yep. If you're like, Colin's mean, that's fine.
Totally.
If you're like Maria's mean, I mean, obviously.
If you're like Colin's mean, then you have not added anything to the conversation, because people know this. And multiple
if they don't, they'll learn.
Told me. Yep.
Who told you were mean?
MIT. They're like, stop being mean to that rapist. Hey, he has rights, that rapist. Stop being so mean to him, or we're going to kick you out, unlike the rapist. We're such a good college. Fucking bitches. Okay. I love you, Mom.
And I mean, that did happen.
To all of our listeners. It did happen. Fuck MIT. Thank you for the degree, but fuck you. And I hope everyone comes back next week.
Okay, I do too. I do too.
Love you, Mom.
I can't. I'm just gonna do it with my hands. Bye. I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, he really noped out of there. And